Where is Trump heading? What exactly does Trump want to do? This is Alpha, the life thoughts of an ordinary investor. It contains a lot of subjective assumptions, errors, and loopholes. Please give me some guidance. Trump has been in office for more than 2 months, but it feels like he has been president for more than a year. As long as he is in the presidency, the headlines will be reserved for him. It's hard to describe Trump's policies in one word, but one word that can be used to describe how we feel is dizzy. Some people look at Trump's policies from an ideological perspective, judging him from the so-called correct, right values, when some things have not yet been finalized. Based on the local clues, we can knock him down morally. As a daily topic of entertainment, I don't think there is anything wrong with doing this. After all, the mouth is used for speaking, and those in power should be supervised and criticized. No matter how divided the opinions on the internet are, the market always has its own opinions. We know that the market has no moral sense, and is always willing to pay attention to profit. But the market is also rational. It does not fully price in unrealized expectations. Here I would like to make some rational discussions on Trump's policies from a trader's perspective. Or it's just my own subjective conjecture. The policy issues of the Trump administration are an issue that traders should pay attention to. They are the focus of the current market, and also the biggest uncertainty in the market. In the long run, this is also a key factor in reshaping the future market landscape. I think a lot of people will have this question. Why is Trump so eager to launch so many major policies at the same time? What is his real purpose? Can it be done? First of all, I need to explain that since this topic is quite broad and my personal level is limited, I cannot conduct a comprehensive analysis of the above issues from all dimensions. Only from the perspective of an ordinary market participant. Starting from some facts and taking specific events as the main line, I make some inferences that I think are logical. Purely personal interpretation of thought. The content only involves the impact of Trump's policies on the market, and does not involve his personal evaluation or other events. Okay, let's start with the first question. Why does Trump want to attack from all sides with such force? Moreover, the simultaneous introduction of these policies is not necessarily more beneficial. For example, imposing tariffs on all countries at the same time. Suddenly turning oneself into the opposite of other countries. And this will push domestic inflation pressure expectations to the limit. Why choose such a difficult mode? Isn't it a better way to defeat them one by one? Let's first analyze this background. First, this time the Republicans not only won the presidential election, but also won both the Senate and the House of Representatives. Some seats in the Senate and the House of Representatives will be recontested in the midterm elections 2 years later. The Republicans were in power before this election. Second, Trump's authority within the party has far exceeded that of his first term. If Trump's first term was a period of gathering ideas from all sides, so it's not an exaggeration to say that he has all the power. We can see this from the loyalty of Trump's team members to Trump. Some netizens also jokingly called these cabinet members Sichuan guards. Third, the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Once again, we can see how big the gap is between public opinion expectations and actual results. The power of new media is underestimated. The Democratic Party was defeated without any chance to fight back. In addition, the exposure of negative events about the Democratic Party by organizations such as the Ministry of Government Efficiency has further dampened the morale of the Democratic Party. In the short term, we cannot see anyone who can carry the banner of the Democratic Party. It can be said that this is the weakest time for the Democratic Party. Trump's team will not fail to see this. Fourth, this is Trump's second term. I don't think there will be a third term as rumored, and he is unlikely to follow Putin's example and play a two-man show. Trump only has these 4 years. Fifth, many of the things Trump is going to do involve major reforms. This means that the original rules of interest division must be overturned and started over again. As you can imagine, this will offend a lot of people. If this kind of thing is delayed, opponents will form alliances and the reform team will become tired. The chances of success will be greatly reduced. although Trump's approval rating is still relatively high. But as more and more people are offended, they will not remain silent. This will slowly turn the balance of public opinion around. If the Democrats come to their senses at this time, then reform will be a dead end. From the above analysis, we can see that Trump's time is actually very tight. Now we can think differently. If you were Trump, try to work backwards to see how these policies were implemented. You can fully understand why Trump's second-term policy density is so high. So I think this is not an ordinary presidency, this is a presidency that wants to change American history. Why is the policy so turbulent? The reason is simple. The project is short, and the task is heavy. We are always racing against time. We need to get things in order before the midterm elections. So what is Trump's real purpose in implementing these policies? Trump is already an old acquaintance to everyone. Whether he was president or not, his words always attract people's attention. If Trump says that no one understands public opinion and internet traffic better than him, I totally agree. According to statistics, the amount of misleading statements in his words is shockingly high. He has been flipping back and forth on the recent tariff issue, and we have experienced this deeply. That is, his language style is one of his behavioral characteristics. We are used to his inconsistency. Don't listen to what he says, watch what he does. Don't just look at what he does, but also look at what the outcome is. So what on earth does he want to do? Make America great again? Is this genuine? I would like to answer this question before. We should put ourselves in the shoes of the American president. If you were the president of the United States, what is the biggest problem you face? What does America first mean specifically? As the saying goes, only when you are in charge of a household do you know how expensive firewood and rice are. This is the U.S. fiscal deficit problem. How serious is this problem? The funds used by the United States to repay debt interest account for about 20% of its fiscal revenue. Let's imagine that when you were young, you couldn't resist the temptation of consumerism. I have been using consumer loans to maintain my superior life for many years. Now you are older. Still continue to use such consumer loans. As a result, I have to use 20% of my daily income to pay the interest on these loans. The remaining money is not enough to support the family. So you can only take out more consumer loans to support your current life. Seeing the loan snowball getting bigger and bigger. If something unexpected happens at this time, there is no doubt that you will go bankrupt immediately. Repaying the principal is something I dare not even think about. If this was a listed company, it would have been forced to delist long ago. As a president who wants to do big things, Trump is ambitious. He certainly won't turn a blind eye to this. If we can solve this problem, it can usher in another golden age for the United States. I am not bragging. So, this is a historic event. Why does Trump want to do this while other presidents don't? I don't think they don't want to do it. Which head of the family would want to ruin his family? But it is too difficult to control the financial deficit. Getting burned is a high probability event. The game of passing the parcel is going well. Why do you want to get involved in this mess? From this point of view, instead of choosing an easier presidency, Trump went his own way and wanted to do something for the country. This starting point is worthy of recognition. If there is a conspiracy theory that he abuses his power for personal gain, I think this is not rationally and logically explainable. If the president wants to make money, he has many ways to do it. For example, wouldn't it be better to just issue some meme virtual currency? There is no need to tie this huge risk to personal gain. If Trump is ambitious, he wants to gain some political benefits. But as a politician, this is understandable. If we understand it from another angle, his idea can be very simple. Just want to make America's financial situation healthier. So, history's assessment of Trump's second term will depend on what he accomplishes. Can this be done? Frankly speaking, it's difficult. This is a highly uncertain thing. People's ability and belief are one aspect. Another more important aspect is the contingency of history, which is what people call God's will. When we look back at some important historical events, if we use only rational factors to deduce again, it is almost impossible to get the same historical results. It is often some unforeseen emergencies that drive the development of history. Let this history go down in history. Therefore, the value of analyzing and predicting such major events is actually not great. But we can roughly sort out the main points of the incident based on reality, so that we can better understand some of the things that are going to happen. I'm not an expert in finance. I can only understand America's financial problems through my own limited perspective. Let's talk about this in two parts. One is the problem of increasing debt. In order to prevent the debt from snowballing, what we need to do now is to open source and connect to the flow. We have already seen the actions taken to intercept the flow. With Trump's support, Musk drove this Doge lawn mower through the U.S. government's garden. Regardless of political grudges, fierce attacks on the bureaucracy, Mosaic believes that without affecting key government service functions, government efficiency could cut about $1 trillion in U.S. spending. This is equivalent to 15% of the government's annual expenditure. At present, we are still very far from this goal. Frankly speaking, Musk's involvement in politics. This doesn't seem like a shrewd entrepreneur, but more like the mad dash of an idealist. Even if Musk can maintain his close personal relationship with Trump. But this relatively safe period is only 4 years at most. If Trump fails to accomplish this big thing, Musk's good days may still be ahead. Although this is not a choice a rational businessman should make. But it's hard to question Musk's good intentions. Let's get back to the topic. Trump is also cutting down on agencies and budgets. This includes abolishing the Ministry of Education and reducing foreign aid and military spending. In addition to cost saving, another aspect is open source. The tariff policy that is in full swing is the most direct way to increase fiscal revenue. Although tariffs account for only about 2% of U.S. fiscal revenue. However, by increasing tariffs, the average tariff on foreign trade will be increased by about 25% to 50%. The proportion of tariffs in fiscal revenue can be increased to 2.5% to 3%. This is undoubtedly a timely relief for the fiscal deficit of more than 6%. This is also an immediate solution to alleviate the pressure of the U.S. trade imbalance. We know that the country's income mainly comes from taxation. To increase revenue, raising tax rates is an inevitable choice in the short term. However, Trump's proposal is to reduce taxes domestically, so he can only increase taxes externally. This is the objective reality of tax policy. Although it is consumers who ultimately pay for the tariff policy. But from past experience, manufacturers also have to bear part of the. At present, the increase in revenue brought by the tariff policy is very limited. It can only temporarily ease the financial strain. In the long run, if we want to increase financial income, we can only expand the economic pie. As the industry grows and personal income increases, more taxes can be collected. According to the latest data from the U.S. Treasury Department's Tax Foundation and the White House Council of Economic Advisors, individual and corporate income taxes account for approximately 55% of U.S. federal revenue in fiscal year 2024. This is the bulk of U.S. income. Therefore, industrial repatriation is a necessary policy option and an objective effect of tariff policy. The effects won't be seen in the short term, but this is the foundation for America's economic greatness again. So we see that lowering taxes, attracting investment, relaxing regulations and encouraging innovation are all policies aimed at achieving this goal. Another issue is the stock of debt. The U.S. debt now accounts for more than 120% of GDP. For a government that is struggling to pay the interest, it is almost unrealistic to expect the principal to be paid. Solving the problem of incremental debt is already a big challenge. So what should we do about the existing debt problem? Let's put ourselves in Trump's shoes and think about it. The United States owes a lot of debt to other countries. Although the debtor is the boss, but if it continues like this, it will go bankrupt. Relying on his thickest arms, he simply refuses to pay. I don't think these creditors dare to do anything to me. But the debt figures are so huge. It is impossible to write it off. Therefore, refusing to pay debts becomes the most realistic way. Let's look at this issue rationally. Although it's shameless, there's no better way than this. The landlord has no more food. Don't think that the previous government would continue to implement this contract just because it didn't propose this plan. It is quite irresponsible to ignore such a huge risk. There will be a thunderstorm at some point in the future. Then we'll all be finished together. So the question about the debt stock leads to the conclusion that debts are owed. This is consistent with some of the contents of the rumored Mar-a-Lago agreement. To sum up briefly, can the debt problem be solved? In the short term, to what extent can the measures of increasing revenue and reducing expenditure control the increase in debt? What is more important is whether the economic plate can be expanded rapidly, which is the fundamental solution to financial problems. This is the content of this issue. We will continue to discuss the last question in the next issue. What are the consequences of solving the financial deficit problem? Okay, let's continue next time.